Hey guys, hope all is well. Today I'm bringing you an off-meta Maganac deck profile. So this all kind of came about with the release of GD02's card list with this new Abdul's Maganac. It links with any Maganac Corpse trait, which for right now is just one card. But another Maganac card means that we have a total of potentially 12 cards that you could run in the deck to kind of help with the GD01 Gundam Sandrock's deploy ability, which is you can deploy a Maganac Corpse unit card from your hand for free, basically. So you could play out this for 3 and then play out a 2 cost for free. So I kind of wanted to see, is it reliable? Is there any point in doing this, or is just Bandai just trying to make sure that certain archetypes and certain builds get at least 1 or 2 cards every set to kind of help it flesh itself more out? So starting with the deck, obviously for this ability to have its maximum usage, you want to run 4 copies of each Maganac. I will say Recedes is definitely the best because its effect is choose one of your green units during this turn and may choose an active enemy unit with 4 or less AP as its attack target. So that's kind of the center around this deck, and Recedes orders that kind of does the same thing where it's choose one unit that is level 4 or higher. During this turn, it may choose an active enemy unit with 6 or less AP as its attack target. So I kind of thought about ways we could use that as some synergy abilities, and what I led to was if we kind of pair this with Breach, we can kind of hit an active target with our Breach units, be able to deal damage to shield and base to kind of make up for the fact that these early game units are level 2, level 3, 2 costs, so you can't just play more than probably 1 or 2 in the early game, so you're kind of playing from behind. So then to help kind of get that breach maximum utilization, we're going to use 4 Rickdom in this deck. Rickdom, I think, is still just a great card, being able to do a breach 2, 3, 3, kind of somewhat punishes your opponent in the aggro matchup. Then we have 2 copies of Gundam Heavy Arms. He gains Breach 3 when he's paired, so he doesn't even have to be linked with Troa Barton to get this effect. Ideally, I only run 2 of this because if you link it with Troa, it turns into a 4/5, and only having 4 AP I find with any unit is sometimes kind of clunky. So ideally, you might want to pair this with the Chang Wu Fei if you don't have a Shenlong Gundam on curve. That way, this turns into a 5/5, and you still get Chang Wu Fei's ability of if this unit's attacking a 3 or less AP unit, you don't take any damage. Then we're running 3 copies of the Baby Shenlong, again, just another breach unit that helps us get there, and when it's linked with Chang Wu Fei, being able to kind of deal with smaller bodies and not take damage kind of helps it potentially stick around for 1 to 2 turns or potentially more. Then, obviously, to get the maximum utilization, we're running 4 copies of the Gundam Sandrock to get that ability, and then we'll also have some Quatre in the deck as well to help us potentially link it on curve, which can lead to some interesting combos that we can kind of talk over once we get to his pilot card. And then 4 of the rare Shenlong. This card is just really good. It's Breach isn't meta, so you don't really see this card come up too often. In my locals, I try to go to 1 to 2 locals every week, and every now and then people would just switch up their decks and play something really off meta or something unusual that you don't usually see, and that's where I usually see this unit come to play. And then we just have 1 copy of the starter deck Wing Gundam. I know some people don't like to run, either 2 to 1 copy of a card. This is more of just a tech card. I don't really care if I see it. If I see it, great. I mean, if it's in the late game, if I can pair this with the Chang Wu Fei to get his ability to just attack an active unit with 3 or less AP and kind of help this, it would be a 6/6 survive for multiple turns while doing breach 5 is potentially good. But again, running 1 copy doesn't mean I'm not banking on it and I'm not hoping to see it. If I see it, it's great. If I don't, it's whatever. For pilots, you need 4 Chang Wu Fei here. I mean, with his ability just being linked with anything that has breach, that's the Rickdom, that's the Heavy Arms, that's the 2 Shenlongs, and then the Wing Gundam. It's just such a great pilot card in my opinion. Then we have 2 copies of Corsica base. This kind of just helps us get extra units on the board. I mean, with the early game here, you're just trying to flood units, and then you'll see with the command cards we kind of have in here to kind of get some more usage of some of these 3/2, 3/3, or potentially 2/3 AP attackers. Then we have 2 copies of the Argama blue base. This just kind of helps rest an enemy unit if we don't see any of the command cards that let us attack active units. We can kind of just rest something to kind of get that breach ability through. Then we're running 3 copies of Recedes Order. Again, I kind of went over this card. Being able to give your Sandrock or your your Shenlong or potentially Wing the ability to attack more active units. I think it's just a great ability, especially once we pair it with simultaneous fire to kind of give that unit breach. Like, for example, the Sandrock, you could potentially play the Sandrock on level 5 for 3, pay one more to link it, and then either, through a Recedes order or a simultaneous fire or the other Recedes Maganac, which you can potentially play this for free. So you would play your Sandrock for 3, play this out of your hand, give that the ability to attack active units, pay 1 to link it, and then pay 1 for simultaneous fire. You can kind of potentially attack into an active unit and then also do breach 3. Again, that's kind of a lot of card hand to do a certain combo, but I think that's the type of combos that kind of get me engaged in the game, especially in the local scene when, we're a couple weeks into the new set, and I'm kind of getting tired of just playing the same thing over and over again and seeing the same kind of decks over and over again. 2 copies of a Show Resolve. My main thesis for every deck is you got to get some draw power to kind of help in the late game, keep your hand fresh and be able to either play more units or see a pilot you need to link a unit, stuff like that. Then we have 4 copies of the Peaceful Team Bray, which is just the Quadtrade command pilot. You could potentially use this in the early game if you're against an aggro matchup and you don't have a shield on your board or anything like that to kind of just not negate that damage from the the grunts that these aggro decks are running. And then finally, 3 copies of Simultaneous Fire. Again, what this does is just choose one of your units. It gains Breach 3 during the turn. So, I mean, you can pretty much use this in the early game as well to link with some of these Maganacs to just give them Breach 3 and swing at a trade into like a Gym or another lower unit like that to kind of put some pressure while you're trying to catch up in the late game. So obviously, I don't I don't recommend this deck if you're going to like a regional or the new type challenges, stuff like that. This is more if you just want to surprise your local scene with something they probably haven't seen or something they probably haven't even tested against. This might be something useful. I'm interested to see if they keep printing Maganac Corpse cards going forward, and you might see the potential where your whole deck is just Maganac Corpse cards, and you can kind of just play stuff for free, and that might be their niche in the game. But I think it's good that they're thinking outside the box on some of these and they try to keep the meta fresh and stuff like that. Stick along after this video. There'll be a quick match and wing table kind of just running through this deck to see how it kind of works and if we're able to even benefit off of the Gunrun Sandrock. But that's pretty much it for this deck profile. It's just something new and refreshing to kind of keep me thinking about the other cards besides your traditional meta decks like your Wing and your blue-red ping and your blue-white unicorn blocker, stuff like that. Just kind of trying to keep things fresh going into the new set and not stick to just strictly the viewpoint of competitive play. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for more Gundam content. I try to range from decks I like playing, either that be meta or this deck off meta, kind of just keep the brain working and thinking. And yeah, I'll catch you guys on the next video and stick around for the gameplay. Thank you.